Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening's Cabinet meeting of Rushcliffe Borough Council. Welcome to everybody who's watching on YouTube as well. I suspect there might be a bit more than usual that are watching this meeting this evening. I'd like to remind everyone that the Cabinet meeting is being live streamed on YouTube and the recording of that will be available afterwards on the Council's YouTube channel. In addition, under the Local Authorities Executive Arrangements, Regulations 2012, other people may film, record, post on social media or blog from this meeting. And just to say that the use of any such images or sound recordings is not under the control of the Council. So we have both citizens' questions and questions from the members of the opposition before the substantive items. So I will first of all start the agenda by asking for apologies for absence, please. I think we're all here. Thank you very much. Item 2, declarations of interest. Any member have any declarations of interest to declare? No, none. Thank you. And the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of March, 2024. All those in favour of approving those minutes? Thank you. So that brings us neatly to item number 4, which is citizens' questions. And we do have one question from Isabel Schuler. So, Izzy, would you like to come forward? Have you been... has the buttons been explained to you? Yeah. Great. So just when you're ready, press the right-hand button. The red light should come on and fire away.
So, do you not agree that 1 hour's free parking will be detrimental to the businesses of Bingham?
Thank you, Izzy. Councillor Inglis, would you like to respond?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, welcome as well. Thank you for your question. And the Council has been assessing a range of tariffs for both Needham Street and Newgate Street, which, as part of the total package of measures, will aim to create more churn and parking space availability to better support the town centre economic vibrancy. The work will be discussed in more detail this evening as part of agenda item 7, which will include a full consideration to both 1 and 2 hour free parking in Newgate and Needham Streets and a charging structure for additional hours. So I'm just asking you to bear with us for the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. So next next item 5, opposition group leaders' questions. Councillor Birch, would you like to come and ask your question? I think you know the procedure by now.
Good evening. The basis for the recommendations in the Bingham Car Parking Update Report is the data accrued by Traffic Data Collection Company, ITP. The methodology they used to obtain their data consisted of in-person surveys of car park users. Do you not agree that this methodology shows blatant sampling bias, where those residents who are actively avoiding the car parks because of years of being unable to find spaces are not represented in the data, and therefore the results do not reflect the true nature of Bingham's parking crisis?
Thank you. Councillor Inglis, would you like to respond?
Oh, thank you. Good evening, Councillor Birch. No, I would not agree, as the report clearly states that in addition to commissioning the on-site surveys, the Council's conducted an online survey, which was well publicised on social media and via press releases, including coverage by the BBC. As a result of this promotional work, the survey received over 1,500 responses, and this information was being used to help inform the package of measures presented in the report this evening.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Birch?
Thank you. and I'll respond to that through Bingham social media. With regards to the charging options that have been presented tonight, option 5 has caused public outrage and has been opposed by all local representatives. Given the potential for option 5 to detrimentally affect local businesses and impose further financial burdens on residents, might Cabinet be inclined to reassess and go for option 4, thereby prioritising the well-being of local residents and the local business community over short-term financial gain?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Inglis. Just to remind you, the original question was about data collection.
Okay. I think the best thing to say is wait for the rest of the meeting and see what develops, and everything will be explained in that item.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. So now move on to Councillor Jen Walker. Would you like to come forward? Fire away when you're ready. Just press the right on.
There you go. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Good evening. Despite a generally favourable report from our peer challenge colleagues, it feels like the response and actions are a done deal. Almost like the theme of the report of the borough talking to its residents rather than in collaboration with has not been taken and runs quite deep, as is evident by the response, as there's no mention of any kind of further engagement. Will all councillors and residents get the opportunity to offer suggestions on how it can make changes suggested in the report and proactively engage in the process of improvement? Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I'll answer that. The responses and actions are designed to highlight the work that is underway that the peer team were not able to see on their visit, as well as improvements that the council can work on in the future. The feedback has been welcomed, and you will see that there is a proposal to include an engagement section in the next communication strategy. Any councillors or residents that want to submit comments are very welcome to do so. The council does have a programme of engagement on a wide range of policy items, as well as its biannual resident survey. The next survey will go out in the June edition of Rushcliffe Reports and will be delivered to every household in the borough. We will be delighted to receive more feedback from residents, so we encourage them to complete the survey. Developing new economic growth strategy is also going to be asking for people's comments as well. And in fact, the Bingham car parking survey, which you just heard about, has also been engaging with the public. Do you have a supplementary?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Is the communication strategy something that will come to scrutiny? Is that another opportunity for us to kind of engage with that?
Initially, it will be reviewed. The communication strategy will be reviewed, and in order to reflect the engagement of that strategy, then it's likely that it'll be renamed the engagement and communication strategy. So that will be reviewed first, and then presumably it would be adopted, but that would then be available for scrutiny as and when. Okay, thank you. And finally, question from Councillor Carys Thomas. I understand Councillor Leslie Way is asking it on her behalf. Oh, sorry. I've got down here Councillor Carys Thomas, so apologies for that.
Good evening. My question was referring to the peer review as well. With reference to Appendix B, Key Recommendations, page 4, Governance, Performance and Culture, Item 7 states, RBC should consider undertaking a comprehensive review of its scrutiny function the role and number of overview and scrutiny groups, processes and procedures aligned with progressing RBC's corporate strategy, with councillor engagement at its core. The subsequent response states that a review was carried out in 2018. As this is 6 years ago and predates the last 2 elections where new councillors have joined, and bearing in mind that this must have been a topic raised many times to warrant this recommendation, and it covered some length in pages 16 to 17 of the report, is it not time a new review takes place and the scrutiny process itself scrutinised?
Thank you very much indeed, and I'll answer that as well. And I do have quite a lengthy answer. Review of scrutiny was undertaken, as you did mention, between September 2018 and February 2019 by what was then called the Centre for Public Scrutiny. It's now called the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny. It was reported to the Council in March 2019. The independent review included desk research, observations of meetings, a survey of all councillors and interviews with officers, scrutiny in cabinet councillors and partners. The recommendation of the Centre for Public Scrutiny was a single scrutiny overview group with the ability to set up task and finish groups to investigate separate specific topics. This model of scrutiny is widely used in unitary and county councils and was quite a significant change from what had been operated well in Rushcliffe for many years, also recognised by the review team. Therefore, a transitional arrangement was proposed and approved by Council, which had a smaller overview and scrutiny group that reviewed corporate items on a cyclical basis, but also managed the requests for scrutiny and work programmes of the 3 themed scrutiny groups. An internal review of this arrangement was scheduled for 12 to 18 months' time. The transitional arrangements were reviewed and reported to the corporate overview group in September 2020. Hope you're following all this. The review concluded that the transitional arrangements were a significant improvement on the previous model of scrutiny and that they should be maintained. So that review did suggest that it stayed as it was. Views of both councillors and officers were sought as part of this review and were detailed in the report. The Centre for Public Governance and Scrutiny still run a scrutiny improvement review programme. They have also published a self-evaluation toolkit, which could be an interesting place to start if it is felt a review is needed. Further training for chairman and vice chairman is planned for this year to focus on quality of debate and questioning, as well as managing the meeting. And this will hopefully result in more effective meetings. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you for that. Yes, the question about scrutiny has strong links to paragraph 2 on page 16 of the report. I'll read it to you. Officers, for example, can take councillors' questions as criticism when councillors often just want to know why or how the council responds to various situations. This can lead to councillors asking fewer questions for fear of offending officers, hindering their understanding of how council operates and relations with officers. I think this is quite noticeable sometimes in scrutiny meetings. What steps can be taken to address this issue and promote better working relationships and understanding between officers and councillors?
I would say that if we have continued training for scrutiny, that hopefully would engender and encourage constructive questioning. Questioning doesn't have to be offending anybody. It's all about constructive criticism or constructive assistance in suggesting new ideas. So I think perhaps it's a way of making sure that we all as councillors, cross-party, can agree with each other to have those constructive conversations, because at the end of the day, it's about making improvements for the benefit of residents of Rushcliffe. Okay, thanks very much indeed. by my reckoning, I think that's the last question. So we'll move now on to the rest of the agenda and to item 6 on page 5, which relates to the corporate peer challenge. As you can see, the corporate peer challenge, well, it has already been the subject of 2 questions this evening, perfectly fair questions, and the peer review or the peer challenge process is something that should be valued by all councils, and it is again, it follows that theme. In fact, that supplementary answer that I gave, it should be constructive and hoping to share experience of our peers to make sure that we can then, where necessary, identify any improvements that we believe should be necessary. So the peer team were very welcome, and they appreciated that we had made them welcome, and we had many interviews over several days, and as a result of which they have come up with the report which is attached in the agenda item. So I'm pleased that this report has come forward, and by and large, and it's been acknowledged that it was very supportive and complimentary report, and particularly they literally didn't have anything to say about the finances, because they said that the finances were so well managed, which is very pleasing and heartening to hear. So the recommendations to accept the report and also to accept the action plan are detailed on page 5, paragraph 2, A and B. So I'll move those 2 recommendations, A and B, and open to the floor. Do we have a seconder?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'd just like to welcome the report as well. And there's lots of positives in the report, but it's also been very interesting to note the areas for development and improvement that they've brought forward. And I think it's particularly satisfying that they recognise the efforts and collective efforts of both councillors and officers in creating a council that can deliver on its priorities and its strategies. And I think that it's very good to see that those things came out in the process. And I also think the process was actually very helpful, not only the conclusion, but the process, which I hope other councillors from across the council also felt, in having those opportunities to really explore in depth the way the council delivers the sort of priorities that we have and how we should be improving in future. So I think the process itself, as well as the outcome, was actually to be welcomed. I was particularly keen on them recognising some of our strategic leadership and place leadership in terms of how we work and influence with partners, even though we're only a borough council with relatively small resources, well managed as they are, but relatively few resources compared to some of our bigger partners. We still have that credibility that enables us to bring partners along with us and to help shape and change their policies for the benefit of the borough. And I think that was picked up and recognised, along with some of our new innovations, such as the economic development strategy, and how we might link that with not only our own investments, but bringing investment into the borough. So I think it was a really useful process. I think it shows that we're a really effective, well-performing council, but it's also given us plenty of things to think about and improve on going forward. So on that basis, I'm very happy to second the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other comments, Councillor Wheeler?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Again, I want to welcome the report. I think it's worth saying to members of the public who are watching this that we actually invited the peer challenge to come in this year, because it's really important to actually have outside people come in and review the operation, because sometimes it's seeing the wood from the trees. And actually, the fact that they spent a lot of time here, a lot of people, very senior people of other councils, and took a lot of time to review our operations. This kind of report, I think, is really positive and shows all the good work that all councillors and the officers are doing. It's also important that we always look to keep improving. Though we know we're a very well-run council, as recognised by being shortlisted for Council of the Year last year, we still need to keep improving and make sure we keep going further. And I think actually the action plan and the recommendation there are good. And looking at the report overall, I think it shows that we are on in a good place in terms of where we currently are, but where we want to be going forward. So really do welcome it and the actions there, and especially areas around training, which is in my portfolio, just to give people that that reassurance is something we want to keep improving our training to make sure both for councillors and staff that they have all the resource they need to be able to do their role, and we'll keep pushing that forwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, with your indulgence, I'd like to make a rather more light-hearted but nevertheless sincere comment about the report. If you like, an analogy with my school reports, which invariably stated could do better. He tries, room for improvement. Whereas this report is far more positive than those I ever got and could be paraphrased perhaps as excellent, well done, keep up the good work. I think that sums it up nicely.
Well done. Very good. And nice and short and sweet, and less is more, definitely.
Quality, not quantity.
Absolutely. Right. Any other comments? No. So we have moved and seconded that. Everybody in favour, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. So now we move to item 7. Excuse me, which relates to the Bingham car parking project update. And if I could ask Councillor Inglis, please, to present the report.
Thank you. Well, the published report is a recommendation. We've listened to all the feedback from Bingham Town councillors, the public and business owners, and I've also read the comments on the Bingham social media sites. So before I start, I'd like to refer you to the revised recommendation, altering the recommendation in part D, and that the table at paragraph 4.9, which is also referenced in the recommendations B, C and D, has a revised tariff. So I'll just let you look at those papers that's coming around before I continue. Okay. So parking in Bingham has been an issue for several years. The main complaint being that people are unable to find parking spaces. The Bingham Car Park Strategy Group was established in September 2023, and one of its objectives was to collect data to better understand the current situation, specifically in Bingham, to explore the short to medium term solutions to improve parking by the way of changes to the length of, and charges to the stay of the existing car parks to prompt a behaviour change, to free up capacity for short stay parking in the town. So the working group, which I chaired, was not just to investigate the Rushcliffe Borough Council car parks, but to look at a complete strategy for all of Bingham, for future solutions and options in partnership with the representatives from Bingham Town Council and the County Council. And that challenge work is continuing. I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank and ask for recognition for every member, especially Cara Prendergast, for their hard work, contributions, and the many hours they have dedicated so far to their desire and passion to get things right for Bingham. I'm sure everyone has read this report word for word, maybe several times, so I will summarise. A 3-day service was commissioned to ITP, an independent sustainable transport planning and research consultancy, to obtain the current data alongside a public consultation period, which concluded that the high majority of users stayed for under 2 hours, the highest percentage under 1 hour, and 50% of those under 30 minutes, with just a small percentage of long stay, contrary to speculation. Most users alluded to using the car park for shopping. The strategy group discussed all the options for potential tariffs. A decision was not decided, but the general consensus leaning towards the option for tariff to be considered by the officers. Subsequently to that meeting, and from within the group, tariff 5 was proposed to also be considered, based on the data for 1 to 2 hour users that had a potential of freeing up more spaces to enable a greater churn and more clients for the businesses. It was discussed and documented with the members of the strategy group in taking that forward. It was option 5 that was deemed appropriate to prompt the behaviour change for freeing up capacity for short stay parking in the town that was recommended in the report for an increased churn. However, Post-publication of the report received a general dissatisfaction and concern to the free limit restriction of 1 hour, challenging it to an anticipated option 4. I want the strategy group to achieve the right solution out of the many options and challenges, so residents and visitors can park more easily. And I, as a cabinet member, generally accepting the feedback from the town councillors, residents and businesses who have aired their opinions and preferences over the last few days. I hope by altering and recommending the option tariff 4 against option 5 will be widely accepted now and will bring the change needed with a review in 12 months. This tariff will apply between 7 AM and 7 PM, which in effect offers free evening parking from 5 PM. The revised free 30 minutes and times of operation in both Rushcliffe and County Council's own bays around the marketplace should also generate a higher turnaround for those who just need to nip in and out. Long stay businesses are not being overlooked, and they have the opportunity to use 30 spaces at the arena car park on an annual permit basis. I trust that by reacting to the feedback that residents and businesses accept that we all want the right solution, driven by a balance of increasing available spaces in order to maintain and increase the vitality and viability of the town centre, and the need to manage the parking provision to ensure that it encourages short stay rather than all day parking, alongside the need to recover the associated running and maintenance costs to the council. I personally would welcome any direct feedback, negative or positive, over the next 12 months for that review. So I'll make the recommendations that the Cabinet supports the report in its entirety in paragraph 2, points A to F, and I'll go through them. So in A, recognises the work carried out by Bingham Car Parking Strategy Group. It approves reducing the length of stay in the council's parking bays in Bingham Marketplace to 30 minutes as set out in paragraph 4.9 of the revised report. C, it approves changing restrictions on market days to allow spaces to be made available to the public when they are not in use by market traders, as set out in paragraph 4.9, again, of the revised report. D, and I think you'll all be pleased with this one, approves changes to Newgate and Needham Street car parks to introduce charging for parking after 2 hours, as set out in 4.9 of the report, or the revised report. E, it approves establishing a permit scheme in Bingham at the arena, creating a circle of 30 spaces for long stay to be made available for a fee to town centre businesses, as set out in paragraph 4.9, again of the revised report. And finally, it supports the proposal of Nottinghamshire County Council to reduce the length of stay in their parking bays within Bingham Marketplace to 30 minutes, again set out in paragraph 4.9 of the revised report. Thank you. And I would like to thank you all for coming this evening. It's good to see that support you've got for Bingham and all those who are no doubt watching on YouTube. So thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Upton?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to second this report, but I don't really want to repeat all the detail that Councillor English has just said. Rather, just a little sketch, really, of my own experience. I've lived in Radcliffe-on-Trent for about 48 years, and I used to, and I emphasise used to, regularly visit Bingham for certain shops for specific items that I couldn't buy in Radcliffe-on-Trent, such as at the Handy Centre in Market Street, Boys Homeware rather, and the Market, and the NatWest Bank until it closed. As I say, I used to, but now not quite so much. When I can, I use the bus, but this is not always convenient or appropriate. In the last 10 years, I've found it increasingly difficult to park in the car parks at Bingham, and I'm afraid that sometimes I've had to park on residential streets, so guilty as charged on that one. I believe the proposed changes in this report will improve the situation and give me and others more opportunity to park in the car parks and to visit Bingham more often as I used to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Verdi.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Inglis for taking us through the options. And I think the decision, as you say, reflecting the wishes and thoughts of all the residents who use the parking in Bingham. I would just like to reiterate, I think, one of the points that Councillor Inglis made, and note really for Cabinet that in choosing this option, the associated revenues, I think, that are expected are unlikely to cover the costs, both revenue and capital, in operating and maintaining the car parks, as is highlighted in the report 4.11, 4.22 paragraphs. However, the Council remains committed to being both prudent and responsible with its finances, and recovering its costs remains good financial practice. I think positively implementing this is a step towards recovering some of the costs. And I think the review that Councillor Inglis has referred to after 1 year will be helpful to assess if the proposed policy has been successful and that the car parking capacity is released and eased for all users. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And to say, I support the revised recommendations come forward. I think I can understand why originally the 1 hour based just purely on the data of 4.4, but I think listening to feedback that we've had for the last few weeks, and especially to our Borough Council colleagues, and obviously in particular Gareth and Nigel, who I know have represented the residents really well in terms of giving the feedback direct to us as a group and as a cabinet in terms of the feeling on the of the residents and businesses. And I think given the enthusiasm of our business to take up the permits at the Bingham Arena, what's been expressed so far, I hopefully think that's going to give us the churn, gives us more capacity for the churn in Bingham, because I think ultimately we all want the same thing, which is that residents can park in Bingham without having to go around and not visit the businesses or go to the doctors and the other services, but also that the town centre continues to thrive. You know, Bingham is a lovely town centre, been there many times myself, and I think actually with these changes proposed today, we can actually try and strike that right balance. Because actually, it's a balance, in terms of the charging regime, but also the same that people are not put off by visiting the town centre. So I think having this in place with the review is the right step forwards. And I think, again, to echo the comments made earlier of colleagues, to welcome everyone who has given their feedback. Obviously, that's what ultimately we're here to represent the people of Rushcliffe, and to actually have feedback is really positive. And again, just to re-emphasise the fantastic feedback from the Borough Councillors, and obviously yourself, if your hat on, Chairman, from the County Council point of view, with the feeling on the ground there, which has allowed us to bring these recommendations tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I just echoing some of the comments. I mean, I think this does show that Cabinet has listened to the residents, the businesses and the organisations, and I've spoken to several of the business owners and had very cordial and very reasoned conversations. But obviously, the actual feelings and opinions were quite clear. So we just need to remind ourselves that money was not the driver in this particular proposal. It's very much, as other members have already said, it is about freeing up spaces for shoppers, so that hopefully it will allow the Bingham businesses to flourish even more. And Councillor Wheeler mentioned the arena car park that can be available for the long-term parkers who are able to apply for a permit. I suppose that although it's not a function of the Borough Council, it's only fair to say as well that obviously I'm aware that the County Council will be reviewing the on-street parking in Bingham alongside this as preparations for these altered arrangements take place. Then the County Council will review the on-street parking arrangements, both in terms of obstructive parking along mainly at junctions, but also where there is maybe areas that require further double yellow lines in order to ensure the flow of traffic. And that's as well as looking at, as has already been mentioned in the recommendations, the on-street parking timings as well. So I'm hoping and I'm optimistic that this can be a coordinated approach to parking in Bingham, whether it be off street or on street. And I hope this becomes a good example of the Borough Council and the County Council working together for the same benefits and to achieve the same solutions, so that Bingham continues to thrive. So it's important that we do keep monitoring it, and that review in 12 months' time to see how it's all gone. And let's hope it all proves a great success, so that we can keep taking it forward. Anybody else, any comment to make? No. In which case, put it to the votes. The recommendations as Councillor Inglis has outlined. All those in favour, please. That is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. That brings us to the end of the agenda, and if I could just echo everyone's interest, our visitors in the coming and watching, and to those on YouTube, and a very good evening to everybody. Declare the meeting